So if you'd like to start, Darlene, it's 5 o'clock, and if Lynn comes in, Tiffany will add her into the meeting.
Okay. Yep. All right. So welcome to the Silicon Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee meeting for Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. And we are meeting by Zoom at 5 p.m. So I'll call the meeting to order. That's item number 1. Now we can do item number 2, Mayor.
Good afternoon, everybody. As we start our meeting, we acknowledge that we are in the area of Treaty 3 within the traditional territory of the Lac Seul First Nation, and that many of the communities and people we serve here in Silicon come not only from Treaty 3, but Treaties 5 and 9, the Anishinaabe Nation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for thank you for acknowledging. Today we have Victor Lyon with us during this meeting. So this meeting is being broadcast via the Facebook world, I guess, and wherever else. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, so welcome, Victor.
Darlene, if I can just ask you to hang on a sec just to make sure that we are broadcasting live.
Okay.
Tiffany, can you confirm that we are live?
I can't confirm that because we can't go live tonight because of the Committee of Adjustment meeting that's at the same time, and it needed to go live.
Okay, so
All right.
we'll post
then
afterwards.
relax, everybody. You can say whatever you want.
Sorry, through you, Chair, I am recording the meeting so that it can be posted later.
Okay.
Still have to be on our best behavior then.
Okay, we're told to behave.
I had a haircut recently. I was all ready.
Okay, so welcome everybody. And item number 3, the agenda 3A, introduction of amendments to the agenda. Anybody? No amendments? All right, then we'll move on to the confirmation of the agenda as it is then. You need a mover? No? Joyce and Eileen. Joyce move, Eileen second. Number 4, declarations of pecuniary interest. Nobody? Okay, we have to ask. All right, so there are no declarations. And item number 5, the adoption of the minutes from the January 18th, 2021 meeting. And I believe everybody received those. So you should have received them in the email. Are there any changes or comments about the agenda? Nothing, Lynn? No? Okay. I guess we can just move on. So we'll adopt the agenda, the minutes from January 18th, 2021. I guess 2020 is still being used on some of the dating. And okay. So we'll just review the dates on the agenda. On the minutes. Okay, so shall we move and second? Anybody?
I'll move.
Who was that?
That
Lynn?
was Lynn.
Okay, Lynn moves, Mayor second. Okay. And carried by all, I guess. Okay, item number 6, business arising from the minutes. 6A, Lac Seul flag, Michelle LaRose.
Thank Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just a follow-up from the last meeting. It was brought up that perhaps we should be flying the Lac-Seul flag here in Sioux Lookout. So staff found out the flag flying protocol for any flags that go up. So the Canadian flag has to be on a pole of its own, so it can't be shared with any other flag. That's a proper protocol. The provincial flag can have one flag flying below it, and that is it. And the municipality doesn't have its own flag right now, but that's something that will be brought to council so that we can fly a flag. And then what we do is we usually fly flags under the provincial flag when it's Alzheimer's month or something like that, where people ask us to fly the flag. So in order to first of all get permission from Lac-Seul to fly their flag, then we would have to put it underneath the provincial flag, but then it would not allow us to fly any other flag for any special occasion at this time. We'd need more flag poles. That's it.
Yes, Mayor.
What's the Lac-Seul First Nation protocol for where their flag should be?
Right, that too.
Any comments there, Clifford, Chief?
Yeah, I guess that is a very worthwhile gesture, since seeing that we're neighbors, that we should recognize each other and the mutual respect we have for each other. And it promotes unity, reconciliation, in my view. So I'm not really sure where we could put it, but I only thought at the moment, but I thought about Sioux Mountain as well. No, I'm not sure where. And we do have, in Lac-Seul, we do have 3 as you come into the community. We have Treaty 3, the Grand Council flag, Lac-Seul, and also 2 spirited people need to be recognized as well. So we have 3. So, and for me, if you do that for us, then I expect to do the same for you with municipal flag here as well.
Wow.
So
We could,
Right.
go
Yeah,
go ahead, Joyce. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it would be meaningful to put the Lac-Seul flag at the municipal office, and then the flags for special occasions, could they go at the TL Tourist Information Center, TIC? And then until which time we can get a third pole.
That sounds reasonable.
Mhm. Okay, Mayor?
Perhaps the committee could make a recommendation to council regarding this, and then through that recommendation, Michelle would have authority to bring it to the council meeting and to raise the issue of budget and some of the other things, and maybe have a bit of time to do a bit more research on what would be best and how we can address it, in the short term and in the longer term, et cetera. And I guess what we would also want to do is, I think, get formal approval from Lac-Seul First Nation. I think that out of respect, I think we should write something to them saying this is why we want to do it, and we would look for their approval on it or not. Their comment or approval is what we would ask. Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
Okay, so we'll leave it with Michelle to bring it to council and to develop the correspondence for to write to Lac-Seul.
If you want to continue, I'll just draft a motion for the committee to consider.
Okay, great. Sorry, Lynn, did you?
No, I just have some thoughts here about the flag thing and the land acknowledgement. My understanding of Truth and Reconciliation is that the settler descendants recognize that the land originally is the territory of Treaty 3 and the local First Nations community. I just felt a little something when the suggestion was to put a municipal flag at the at the at the Lac Seul site. I realize that that's a nice gesture of friendship, but I see it as it's meaningful if the settlers and their descendants acknowledge the Anishinaabe, the Grand Council Treaty 3 and Lac Seul treaty areas. That's where they sit. That's where they've been placed by the government. It wasn't the original people who placed the settlement of Sioux Lookout and Hudson and Alcona in the territory. It was the government who did that, not the Anishinaabe who did that. The Anishinaabe were forcibly removed to allow for the encroachment of settlers. And that's the purpose of Truth and Reconciliation, is to recognize that all this land that we live on in Canada and the Americas was originally occupied by the original people. And it was the settlers who room was made for. Sometimes willingly and sometimes not so. The people were given a notice that, and then I just go back to the stories that I've heard, the oral traditions that I heard of families being told that they can no longer live by, their hunting places and their fishing places, that they had to move to another location because people were settling where the Forest Inn is now. People were settling where Abram Lake Lodge is now, and so on. So I mean, I don't like to be a stickler, but the purpose is for the settlers to acknowledge this, not so much the original people. So that was just a comment. I really, it's more meaningful when the settlers acknowledge the land, when the settler descendants acknowledge the land where their descendants got to build their homes and to reside. That's just, yeah.
All right, thanks, Lynn. And Mayor? Yes.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to be clear to the chair and to the chief and to the committee. When I asked the chief what Lac Seul's protocol was on raising a flag, I wasn't asking about a municipal flag in Lac Seul. I was actually thinking about the First Nation flag flying below the provincial flag. Was what I didn't think that was such a good idea. In no way was I asking for the municipal flag to be flown in Lac Seul. If the First Nations decides that suggestion they want to do, we will of course respect that and feel good about it. But Lynn Marie, I take your point absolutely.
Yeah, I guess for me, I just want to add a little bit more to it. When you talk about the treaty, the treaty medal that I have goes back to 1874. whatever the treaty, every 1874, I guess, 1873, when the treaty was signed by in Northwest Angle. And on that medal, there's two people. They're shaking hands, and there's a buried hatchet on the ground there. And so every year I get every year, Treaty Day, I get a flag, a Canadian flag. And we also got Ontario flags in the community, but we never fly them. And there's a picture actually of the chief holding a flag of Ontario upside down. And to me, that was before the flood. To me, whether it was, I don't think it was intentional, but when you fly a flag upside down, it's almost like there's a premonition of something going to happen, disaster. And sure enough, a flood came. So I have that particular picture, which is very striking in my view. And on one hand, he's also holding, the headman is also holding a Bible. No, he's holding a pipe, and he's also holding a crucifix like this. And the flag's upside down over there. So to me, that seems that there's a willingness to share and work together and, you know, respect each other's different Christian beliefs back then. But as for the flag, I kind of agree with Lynn Marie about the flag. But I was just trying to be kind-hearted, and but I do see something there as well. I think I think it should be okay with just us flying the flag in Sulakaut, and the Sulakaut flag here might open. Perhaps some people might say, "What's happening now? Are we is Sulakaut taking over the? Are we going to be part of Sulakaut type of thing?" I mean, people get all kinds of different ideas in their heads.
There is a sign coming when we come into Sulakaut by mile 5, isn't there? That recognizes the Treaty 3 territory, and that this is what this is here. So I'm not sure about the flag stuff. You know, the Treaty 3 flag. Yes, definitely that relationship between the settlers and that treaty relationship. That might be something that we could look at and talk about. That we are all treaty people. Maybe it could be something that we do in the future with regards to the treaty, and educating people about what that means, you know, to be here on this land. And
That's good.
So the discussion is whether it should be a Treaty 3 flag or a Lac Seul flag, is it?
No.
And also, so the other thing too would be, why don't we look at what it would cost to put a third flagpole up that just had either Lac Seul or Treaty 3 or both, whatever.
and
But
even
that, why don't we just check that out, and then, but I would think it should be discussed more as to whether it should be Treaty 3 or Lac Seul or both. And I don't know that that's our decision. I don't know if it's our municipality's decision as much as, you know, the First Nations people around here as to what they think about it. Because you say, I mean, it can be interpreted any way.
any
Can be
other thoughts?
interpreted. The people of Lac Seul might be offended. The people of Treaty 3 might be offended. We don't know. So
Anybody
I
else?
think it's a great idea to look into the cost of a third pole
Yeah.
and take one step at a time. I don't see, like, I really like that big sign at 5 Mile, just off a little bit, and I look at it every time, and it's just like each treaty area has that sort of big sign, like you're entering, Treaty 3, or you're entering Anishinaabe Nation, or you're entering AI. So, I mean, like there is that, sort of awareness happening for the treaties. And treaties are different from traditional, well, no, not so much different from traditional territory, but it is a slightly different relationship when you have a First Nations community so close to a settler community, because that's how Canada was formed. There was always a settler community that popped up where the original people were settled, because the original people geographically knew where the best spots were. So, geographically, it made sense to put the Hudson Bay Post or whatever little establishment, most likely the LCBOs, but that's a whole nother different thing. But you'll notice all throughout Canada, there's some sort of LCBO right beside, well, not right beside, but really close to a First Nations community. And that's a whole, like that's that whole colonization thing. But going back to the poll, look into the cost of having one. Let's take one step at a time. But I would really like to see Lac Seul First Nations acknowledged where Sioux Lookout and Hudson sits, because those are the original people of this area. And like homes and lands and graves were flooded for everybody else to settle here. I'll try not to say no more.
Okay. And I think I agree with Lynn. Let's take one step at a time and just maybe price things out. But would it be fair to ask people like you, Darlene, Victor, and Clifford, Lynn, to maybe approach some, I don't know, elders or somebody that you think might be good to advise on what the best step would be to whether the Treaty 3 flag, the Lac Seul flag, or both, or just to kind of find out what would be if it's been done anywhere else before, and what would be appropriate here before we bounce into something and realize we put our foot in the mouth, sort of thing.
Yeah, I've never heard of it being done anywhere, so
I have.
it
I
might
have.
be done somewhere.
But it was done in Kenora
Okay.
with the mayor of the day and Wichita Kavanaugh. So I'm not sure what the process they used, what the protocol was, and I think maybe we could reach out to them and find out more how they did it, and we get a better understanding of how we can do ours.
Yeah, I was just going to say one more thing, in some of the research I did way back, that when the government in the 60s was going around and having hearings with First Nations about whether they wanted to have the vote and whether to go into or to be able to go into liquor stores. And interestingly enough, 3 communities in Ontario voted against having the vote, because that would be their acknowledgement that they were submitting to the dominant or the settler government. And I mean, that's just an example of something where we think it's a good idea to do something, and yet really we forget that it could have a much different meaning to people. Like for us to put a flag up of a First Nation. I mean, that might be seen as something different from what we're seeing it as. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
We meaning the white people here, white governing people wanting to do the right thing, but not knowing that we're not doing the right thing, or we're giving a different message than what we really wanted to. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
I understand that.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm suggesting, if you folks who are from Lac Seul and have context, if there'd be any way of you kind of checking this out with people that you think would be able to give us wise advice on which way to go.
Yeah, I was just reading, say, the news clip. It says, but this has to do with the Treaty 3 flag to fly outside Kenora, Ontario City Hall permanently. So they did this ceremony on, I think it was on Aboriginal Day when they had this ceremony.
Hmm.
It's you can Google your and find a story there.
Yeah.
Where is it? Was that in a newspaper or in Kenora?
It was a CBC News,
Oh, okay.
June 22, 2017. So they had the flag there for quite a while now.
Mhm. Okay, thanks.
I'm trying to put myself outside of the picture here because I'm a visitor. I'm a visitor from a different territory. Anishinaabe, from an unceded land. And it would be very different to put a flag of the local municipality near our community. But also, because of our sort of unceded status, all the land is seen as territory. It's not seen as like a reserve. Well, it's like a reserve, yeah. But those are wise words, Joyce, in that sometimes what we see in our present day as meaningful and relevant may or may not be from the past or the future. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know the past or the future and what people thought. But from all the stories, I know that people are still hurting. Like when I think about the homeless in Sioux Lookout, this is their territory. This is where their spirit lives. This is home. I mean, they might not own land in the municipality or pay taxes or whatever, like that kind of stuff, but their spirit lives here and their ancestors' spirit lives here, and their future descend, they'll live here too. And same with, like, life has changed because, like, we're now a land that shares all, like, we're a land that it's all shared by everybody. And I like how careful the thought is and the discussion about how that land is represented by everyone who's having very thoughtful thoughts. I really like, and when I think about the people who lived in the past, before the flooding, I don't know Lac Seul well, but who, like, are there still people alive before the flooding? Are there people still alive? Like, I was reading that report from Mario too. There's so much history here and so many unsettled feelings or unsettled energies that probably want some sort of settlement in their energy. It's thank you, Joyce, for being able to offer those thoughts that you did, because it's like helping me. It's mixing me up, but it's also helping me shift.
Yeah. And Lynn, I have a suggestion, and it'd be interesting to know if you with your contacts in Wiki, what would they think if Little Current wanted to put a Wiki sign, a Wiki with Kwamakwang flag up? I'd be curious to know what they might say, given the unique history of Kwamakwang.
They would probably prefer to see a UCCM flag more so, because UCCM represents the entire island. The island is made up of several different communities, and the United Chiefs and Councils, it represents most, not all of them. It's without Wiki. Wiki by no means claims the entire island. There are other peoples who live there. There's 5 other communities, so they don't claim it. It's Manitoulin Island. Little Current is just a little bridge, and Little Current has a name similar to Sioux Lookout's name. What's that name again there, Darlene? Wenanagun. Little
Okay,
Current was not known as Little Current when my parents were growing up. It had a different name. And so I find that really interesting how, and it was, the name it was referred to was only talked to by the Anishinaabe people there. Like their reference to that place, eh? So every place in Ontario has a different reference for the original people, whether they're Ongahonwe, they're Anishinaabe, or they're Cree. Every place has a reference, and I think that's a really good thing to remember. And that's part of the Truth and Reconciliation process, is that we remember what the places were, and the people, the families that were, and still are. Their descendants are still here. The descendants of the original treaty signatories are here. In our families, we have those original chiefs who resisted, signing the Manitoulin Treaty. But I suspect that Wiki would be very generous in that they would, they don't see it as all of their land. It's Mindo Missing. It's not Wakumakong, it's Mindo Missing. So it would be all those bands that would have to agree to that.
It would be interesting to check that out, just what people would think, whether or not it's us intruding on First Nations yet again by putting their flag up on our, on our municipal building. So I mean,
Yeah,
I like the idea. I just think we need to be careful and go slowly.
Could you hold your thought there, Joyce? We want to
Okay.
hear from one person here. Mario?
I just have one comment that I've been listening and stuff like that. I think the comments are really good. I would like to just say one thing. When I go down in the United States, I know I'm in the United States nation. And how I know that is there's flags all over the place. When you come up to this country here, It's, if I was, let's say, a tourist or something like that, and I came here to Sioux Lookout, is this Ojibwe country? Is this Sioux country? I think that hanging a flag is very, very important. And I think that we need to erect more flags for the Ojibwe. And maybe I'm being preemptive here, but maybe that down the road, what we should do is we should maybe talk to the tourist outfitters and talk to the businesses in town so that they can put up flags that denote we are in Ojibwe country. And I think it's really important that we should push forward to do that. This is a really important project. It really is. There's no mistaking when you go down in the United States where you are. They are ramming flags down your throat. I don't think we should go to that length here, but I think it's very important that we do that.
Yeah, I guess it's good to be patriotic, but anyway, yeah, well, this ended up being a more in-depth discussion than we realized.
Yep.
So Michelle, you will eventually, I think, bring this to council, and I think getting that third flagpole might be the first thing. And
I think that it's in the committees, like I did draft a resolution or motion based on the original discussion at the beginning of this discussion, but now I see that we've taken a different route. So my suggestion to the committee is to leave it for now. Perhaps Chief Bull can do some more thought and a process around what it is you would like to fly in Sioux Lookout. From your First Nations people, like in Lac Seul, and then from there we would do a report to council. Staff would do a report to council on behalf of the TRC, and then garner interest for putting up an additional flagpole at the same time. To go to council right now and say we'd like an extra flagpole just in case, it doesn't, there's no substance to it. So I think we have to do a little bit more homework, and we can certainly I've taken notes, Chief Bull, with reference to the article and the Treaty 3 flag being flown in Kenora. And what I'll do is I'll follow up with staff as well to find out how that process went and how they determined that it would be the Treaty 3 flag, and then come back to the committee with more information on that.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment about about land. What I've been hearing when I go to Treaty 3 meetings, elders talk about that land, the land to them a long time ago. The concept of owning land is something that they never thought of. I mean, the land is there for the use of everybody, and back then, and the very thought of owning land is foreign to First Nations back then. And then, so when you think about when you die, your body goes back into the land. You don't own land; the land owns you, because you're devoured back into the ground and dust to dust. So that's the way I think First Nations look at it. It doesn't, that land, you can't own land, that land owns you, is I guess is the message that elders would talk about.
okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. So we'll leave this for now, and I guess we'll hear back from Michelle at the next meeting a little bit more about it. And if anybody else finds out other municipalities that have done this and how they've done it, how they went about doing it too, would be nice to know. And I think that's it for that.
Maybe the mayor can send that link to everyone that I sent you, Doug.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right. So we'll move on to number 7 now. Delegations, presentations, and committee presentations. There are no guests, I don't think, so we'll move on then to, yes, Lloyd?
Really?
Yes.
Are we reporting on the cemetery committee and Brian's report? I was wondering where that's going to be.
That's under item 8C.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move on to item 8, items for discussion. 8A, the appointment of Victor Lyon to Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Michelle? Yes.
Yeah, that was just to acknowledge that council approved at our last council meeting, Victor's appointment to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, and welcome, Victor.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome, Victor.
So Victor, did you want to say anything about yourself? And
Welcome, Victor.
Not really too much. Just introduce myself, I guess. My name is Victor Lyon, as you all know. My parents were Daniel and Jesse Lyon. They've lived pretty much since 1979, I guess. And I grew up about 45 minutes east of here in Umferville. And I have a lot of relatives in Lac Seul. I'm also a member of the Lac Seul First Nation. I worked in television for most of my life and was on the, what do you call it? I can't remember what it's called now. I know we struggled with the name for a long time, but I can't really remember what it's called now. Committee, Anti-Racism Committee. There we go. Yeah, and I've been on a few other boards before too. Currently a cultural resource coordinator at the Friendship Center, and I try to do my best to try to teach and to bridge the gap between First Nation and non-First Nation by sharing teachings and educating the youth, because I think that's where real change can happen. I appreciate the things that we're doing here today and the discussions that are happening. I'm just going to sit back and listen and try to take in as much as I can. Miigwech.
okay. Great. Okay. All right. So welcome. Now we'll go on to 8B, the 2021 work plan. Michelle.
Yes, so each year for the new members, and just a reminder, each year we put in a work plan to council to get approval for the work that the TRC wants to do throughout 2021. And we have an allocation of not huge monies, but an allocation of $2,500 for that purpose on things that we would like to do with the money, and submit that to council for their approval. So I apologize, it didn't come to the committee in January or December. I totally forgot about it, so to be honest with you. So it's on the agenda this evening so that I can possibly bring it to council in March to have it approved in March. So what you see in front of you, or what was sent out as part of the agenda package, was the 2020 annual work plan that we submitted to council that was approved last year. And of course, with the advent of COVID, we barely met. So a lot of the items on there didn't get done, but we are picking up from where we left off. So I know that there's a number of things that we are now doing, like the name placing subcommittee, and the memorialization is now moving forward, as well as the workshop that we're planning, should we be able to gather again in the near future without COVID restrictions. So the items on there are up for discussion with the committee so that I can put together a report to council for the March council meeting.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Any comments, questions? No. Okay. Now we have 8C, staff report on the Northway Cemetery Northern Section, memorialization. Yes.
Are you not having discussion on the work plan, or would you like me to just go ahead and?
I don't think anybody,
Are you,
okay, Joyce, sorry.
yeah, are you wanting us to send you in ideas, Michelle, or discuss?
Sure, like I have a good idea of what the committee wants to work on already, but if you'd like to send me something within, let's say, the next week so that I could prepare the report for council, that would be great. And I can also circulate it in advance just in case there was anything missed.
Okay.
Would that be okay, acceptable to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And anybody else for this work plan? No? Okay. So 8C, staff report on a Northway Cemetery, Northern Section, memorialization. Michelle.
Yes, so Brian was gracious in putting this together because he was the one that attended most of the subcommittee meetings. I think I only attended one. He was the staff resource person. So at the last meeting, it was decided that a report would come from staff to the TRC committee to kind of sum up all the work that's been done to date from the subcommittee level and kind of look for direction from the TRC to say, this is what we want to do. So in the recommendation section of the report, it says that the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee recommend to council the following initiatives to memorialize those individuals interred in the northernmost section of Northway Cemetery, which shall be undertaken in collaboration with key community stakeholders from Sioux Lookout and Northern First Nations communities. A common memorial that describes the history of this section of Northway Cemetery in an effort to recognize and memorialize all of the individuals interred in this section of the cemetery for which specific interment sites cannot be identified. A multi-denominational and traditional memorialization service to occur in June of 2022. And with all hopes that COVID, we will be able to gather in large groups by then. And a community multicultural feast to follow the multi-denominational and traditional memorialization in June of 2022.
Comments
So,
on-
and as well in this report, Brian attached the research that was done from Mario with reference to individuals and stories of people that may be interred in that section of the cemetery. We did redact names that were in the report because this is a public document and we wanted to make sure that individuals' names weren't shown in the report. And then also the original PowerPoint presentation from years gone by when they tried to do the memorialization and it kind of went by the wayside. So originally it was called Potter's Field, and we as a committee determined that we didn't want to refer to it as Potter's Field anymore, but that was the original presentation that was done years ago. So staff are looking for direction from the committee. If that's a recommendation that you would like to follow, we can pass a motion based on that recommendation, take it to council, and then move forward with the planning.
All right, Joyce, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great report. I was going to suggest if there could be something in there about like how we're going to use the names that we have found, and possibility in the future that we're going to come across more names with all the sources that Mario has gone after. I think we're going to, more names are going to surface, and how are we going to deal with that? Where are we going to store them? Are we going to have some sort of an archive somewhere so that we have so this information that Mario has gathered is not going to get lost, and will probably gather more if that shouldn't be in the recommendation.
Michelle?
So from a staff perspective, we've had a lot of conversations, and the thing that we're worried about is the fact that we're going to miss people. You know what I mean? To actually put names on. I agree with you, Joyce, that it's important to have that data bank of information for history purposes, and to to make sure that people are aware of the people that were interred there, and as names arise, add it to that bank.
Yeah.
I would think that through the Indigenous Knowledge Center that we're hoping to get off the ground as part of the new museum, that's where that repository of information would be. Staff are actually recommending that it be a common memorialization without names at this time, because of the fact that some cannot, although we're told they're verified, they're not actual legal records of interments, and we want to make sure that the information's factual, and it's almost impossible to do that with all the interments. So we're thinking a common memorialization, and then as we gather more information in conjunction with the research that Mario has done so far and the professor has done, that's where that information would be housed in the Indigenous Knowledge Center.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah. I mean, it is going to be impossible to know, but I think over time, information will come come out, and yeah, and as long as some archives somewhere, so it's great. Yeah, and I'm just wondering, should that be in the recommendation, Michelle? Something to that effect, under the bullet points there.
We could add that, certainly.
Something like, and the municipality continue to, what's the word?
Maintain a database.
Yeah, as in, yes, can develop a database as information emerges about identification of persons. Yeah.
Mario?
Would that not just be a normal function of the cemetery department? The municipality is responsible for knowing who is buried in their cemeteries, and as status quo, they record the names as they become aware of them. So that should just be automatic. Is that not correct?
Yes, that is automatic. We're talking about history, trying to collate information as it arises. Where does that get collated? And we're thinking, yeah, if we have legal documentation that people were interred there, then we would house it in the cemetery department of the clerk's office. But as well, it can be available in the Indigenous Knowledge Center. But you have a good point, Mario. But yes, any interments that we actually have records for, and in the future, they have to legally be kept in the clerk's office as a legal record.
I expect that if once the word is out that there is a memorialization going to occur, that people will start to come forward and ask questions about, whether or not we know if their particular relative might be there, and I think it'll generate discussion
For sure.
Information coming forward.
Okay, and then as part of the reconciliation to invite the other groups and First Nations, with the people who passed on in a residential school that were buried there, they might be interested to come and attend the memorialization. So our role as a Truth and Reconciliation Committee is to bring this information to the right people, and to make sure that everybody is included.
Mhm.
Are there any other comments on this? Very important work. Thank you, Mario, for all the work again that you've done. And, okay,
Um,
yes. Eileen?
yeah, just, I'm wondering if the recommendation needs to include the kind of consultation that will need to take place in order to establish, what the memorial piece would look like.
Yeah, Michelle?
So just to reiterate, part of the motion says which shall be undertaken in collaboration with key community stakeholders from Sioux Lookout and Northern First Nations communities.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't read that piece, sorry. Okay, good, thanks.
So through you, Madam Chair, if we can have a mover and seconder on that motion, and I've added another bullet point to it regarding the repository of information as well. If we can have a mover and seconder for that, then we can bring it to council.
All right, so who wants to move?
I can move.
Lynn will move it and seconder. Yes, Mario, seconds. All in favor? Yeah.
Hi.
Thank you, Michelle. So that's moving forward. Yeah. Okay, so we have a closed session item with Michelle.
I would just
We have the next meeting date, number 9, and on March 15th, 2021 via Zoom again. And that's okay, same time, 5 o'clock. Okay, 5 o'clock's good for everybody.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
And motion to adjourn, number 10. So who wants to move?
I'll move.
Lynn moves it and seconder.
Oh, second.
Grace. Okay, so we'll see you on March